At the entryway, I bumped head-on into my husband, Marcus, who had just come home. He frowned, sniffing the smell of cigarette smoke on me, the scent of my toy boy. Just as he was about to erupt, the phone in his pocket rang. I reached out, pulled his phone out, and answered it. A sweet-sounding female voice came from the other end. "Honey, are you home yet? Did your wife find out?" The air solidified. My husband stared at me in disbelief, his voice low. "Care to explain?" I shook his phone, still connected to the call, and countered, "You first, or me?" Marcus's face instantly shifted from ashen to livid. The fury in his eyes almost devoured me, as if I was the one caught cheating, not him. "Grace, give me that phone." He reached out to grab it, but I deftly stepped back, avoiding his hand. Not only did I not hang up, I pressed the speakerphone button. The sweet-sounding female voice continued to prattle on. "Honey, why aren't you talking? Is your wife there? Let me tell you, I ordered you a new custom-tailored suit today at his usual tailor. You can pick it up next week. And last time you said your cooking tastes like slop, so today I specifically learned a special gourmet stew. How about I stew it tomorrow and bring it over for you?" Marcus's face grew uglier and uglier. He glared at me, as if trying to flay me alive with his eyes. On the other end of the line, his mistress was still flirting. "Honey, don't ignore me. Is it not a good time? I'll hang up then, but remember to miss me." Blows a kiss. After a cloyingly sweet air kiss, the call finally disconnected. I calmly turned off the phone screen and looked up at Marcus. "Finished listening? How do you feel, Grace?" He finally exploded, like a provoked beast, shoving me against the wall. His hands gripped my shoulders, strong enough to crush my bones. "You knew all along, didn't you? You did this on purpose. Where did that smell of cigarette smoke on you come from? Which wild man were you messing around with?" He completely ignored his own wrongdoing, instead aiming all accusations at me. It was ridiculous. "Marcus, have you forgotten? The call was for you. You're the one who cheated," I calmly reminded him. "Shut up," he roared, his eyes bloodshot. "That was just a casual fling. But you're dating someone? Grace, you disgust me." I looked at his face, twisted with rage, and suddenly found it somewhat amusing. A casual fling? A casual fling that involves buying her bags and cars, taking her to five-star hotels, and telling her my cooking tastes like slop? My calmness seemed to provoke him even further. He snatched his phone from my hand, then pulled my phone from his own pocket and violently threw it at my face. "What about you then? You look like you've been out on a date, haven't you? With that toy boy?" The corner of the phone hit my forehead, instantly causing a sharp pain. I didn't dodge, nor did I cry out. I simply watched him quietly, watched this man I had loved for 8 years, how he had gradually become barely recognizable. Seeing my silence, he assumed I got caught red-handed, and his arrogance grew even bolder. "Why aren't you talking? Was I right? Grace, I'm telling you, I can play around, but you can't. You're my wife, you have to be virtuous." He pointed at my nose, uttering these utterly absurd words. I laughed, a bitter laugh. "Marcus, that archaic mindset is long gone. I don't have time for your nonsense." He snatched my phone fiercely. "I'll call that adulterer right now. I want to see which fool dares to touch my woman, Marcus's woman." He held my phone, attempting to unlock it. Once, twice, incorrect password. His rage intensified. He turned and bellowed at me, "Password? Tell me." Seeing his frantic state, I suddenly felt apathetic. Slowly, word by word, I spoke. "The password is, the day after our wedding anniversary." Marcus's movements froze instantly. Marcus's face was more colorful than a painter's palette. The muscles in his face twitched, and his fingers, gripping my phone, turned white from the force. Our wedding anniversary was 0520, and my phone's password was 0521. That extra one was the third person I personally added to our marriage, which had existed in name only. It was also my silent mockery of him. "Grace, you." He opened his mouth, but for a long moment, couldn't utter a complete sentence. Anger, humiliation, and a hint of imperceptible panic intertwined in his eyes. Ignoring him, I walked straight to the living room, took the first aid kit from the drawer, and disinfected the wound on my forehead. The cold alcohol wipe stung slightly as it touched my skin, but it only made me feel clearer. Marcus followed. He slammed my phone down on the coffee table with a loud thud. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You deliberately used this password to provoke me?" I didn't lift my head, replying calmly, "Is it as bad as you and your mistress saying my cooking tastes like slop?" He choked, momentarily speechless, then furiously raised his voice. "That's different. I'm a man." "Oh? I finally stopped what I was doing and looked up at him. So, men cheat for adventure, women cheat out of depravity, is that what you mean? You're being unreasonable. I'm merely stating facts. I tossed the blood-stained cotton swab into the trash can, my voice soft but every word clear. I knew it the first time you came home staying out all night, smelling of a perfume that wasn't mine. I confirmed it when more and more expensive jewelry and women's clothing appeared on your bank card statements. I gave up when you repeatedly refused to communicate with me, using overtime and social engagements as excuses. With each sentence I spoke, Marcus's face grew paler. He probably never imagined that his seemingly flawless lies were, in my eyes, already a joke full of holes. I gave you chances, Marcus. I looked into his eyes and said calmly, on our 5th wedding anniversary, I booked your Avrite restaurant and waited for you for 4 hours. You finally sent a message saying you had an emergency company meeting. But that night, your mistress posted a social media post, tagged at the new Japanese restaurant near our home, with the caption, "Thanks for the surprise, honey." Marcus's body swayed, as if all his strength had been drained. He wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Yes, what could he say? I stood up and walked towards him step by step. So, from that day on, I made a decision. Since you can't control yourself, I don't need to stay faithful to you either. That's fair, isn't it? My words were like an awl, piercing through his false pride. He stumbled back, looking at me in disbelief, as if I were a monster. Grace, you're crazy. How could you become like this? How I became this way, isn't it all because of you? I scoffed, pushing him onto the sofa. Now, let's talk business. I took a stack of documents from my bag and threw them in front of him. This is a list of our marital assets, and the detailed breakdown of every penny you spent on your true love. It's time we settled accounts. Marcus's pupils constricted as he looked at the thick stack of documents. He probably didn't expect me to be so thoroughly prepared. With trembling hands, he turned to the first page. The first page of the document was a summary sheet. It clearly listed all the expenses Marcus had incurred for his mistress over the past year, drawn from both our joint marital account and his private account. From luxury bags worth hundreds of thousands to sports cars worth over $1 million, and even a down payment for a downtown apartment valued at several millions, every single transaction was shocking. This isn't me. Marcus's voice trembled as he tried to deny it. Not you? I pulled out a copy of one of the invoices and waved it in front of him. This 7/18, wasn't it your birthday gift to her? The registered owner at the DMV is her name, you know. I pulled out another document. And this apartment, even though you paid the down payment, the purchase agreement only has her name on it. Marcus, you truly love her, planning her escape route too. Marcus's lips quivered, unable to utter a single word. He had no way to deny these pieces of evidence. Grace, you investigated me? He finally snapped out of his shock, looking at me with a betrayed expression. You're allowed to cheat, but I'm not allowed to gather evidence? I scoffed. Marcus, don't be so hypocritical. I sat across from him and poured myself a glass of water. Now, let's talk about my toy boy. At those 3 words, Marcus's eyes turned fierce again. Who is that toy boy? Him? I deliberately drew out my words, enjoying his anxious expression. His name is Alex, and he's a fitness trainer. A fitness trainer? Marcus's expression immediately filled with disdain. Grace, when did your taste sink so low? Dating a physical laborer? In his world, physical laborers like Alex were the lowest of the low. Is he clean? Does he have any diseases? When you were sleeping with him, did you ever think that you're Marcus's wife? Insulting words spewed continuously from his mouth. I didn't get angry, instead, I smiled. Marcus, you're flustered. You look down on him, don't you? So why are you getting so agitated? I slowly took a sip of water and continued. Alex, even though he's just a fitness trainer, he's young, handsome, has a great physique, and his stamina is unbelievably good. I deliberately emphasized the last few words. Marcus's face turned completely green. Shut up. He violently stood up, sweeping everything off the coffee table. Glassware, documents, remote controls, all shattered on the floor. Grace, you're a slut. He lunged at me, raising his hand to strike. I didn't dodge, I just looked at him coldly. Go ahead and hit me. One slap, and we're truly and utterly finished. Not only will you not get a single penny, but I'll make sure Yo knows that Marcus is a cheating husband who transferred marital assets and abused his wife, a piece of trash. My voice was soft, but it was like a bucket of ice water dumped over him. His raised hand froze in midair. Yes, he wouldn't dare. What he cared about most was his pathetic pride and reputation. He slowly lowered his hand, his chest heaving violently, like a trapped beast. I stood up and straightened my clothes. Now, it's my turn to ask you. I walked over to him, looking down. My demand is simple: divorce. The assets will be divided according to this list I have. Since you cheated and maliciously transferred joint assets, legally, you should leave with nothing. But I'm not completely heartless. I paused, looking at his pale face, and said word by word. I can leave you one house and 1 million in cash. Everything else belongs to me. Marcus abruptly looked up, his eyes bloodshot and filled with resentment. Impossible. Grace, you wish. For wish? I laughed, a cold, chilling laugh. Marcus, what right do you have to negotiate with me now? I bent down and picked up a scattered photo from the floor, an intimate picture of him and his mistress, with the Eiffel in the background. When you were using the money we saved for a house in a good school district to enjoy yourselves in Europe, why didn't you consider that today would come? I flung the photo at his face. You think I don't know? Your company's so-called Europe inspection project didn't even have you on the roster. Marcus's body jolted violently, as if struck by lightning. His greatest reliance was believing I knew nothing, that I was still the foolish housewife he could easily deceive. You. How could you? How could I know? I cut him off, the curve of my lips growing more mocking. Marcus, have you forgotten? The largest shareholder of your company is my father. All the documents for that project have to go through my father's assistant, and then to my father for signing. And the assistant is my best friend from college. All color drained from Marcus's face. He stumbled backward, hitting the sofa and collapsing miserably onto it. All his hope and pretense were shattered by me in that moment. He finally realized that the person he was facing was no longer Grace, who had loved him to the point of losing herself, but a vengeful woman who had long set a trap, just waiting for him to walk right into it. Grace. His voice was hoarse, tinged with a plea. We were husband and wife after all. Do you have to be so ruthless? Ruthless? I scoffed as if I'd heard the funniest joke. Who was it who vowed to love me forever, then turned around and slept with another woman? Who was it who used overtime as an excuse when I had a miscarriage and needed someone most, but was actually celebrating another woman's birthday? Marcus, who was truly ruthless? I pressed on, and with each word, his head dropped a little further. Those bloody memories I had deliberately tried to forget were reopened, making my heart ache. But I also knew that sometimes, you have to break things to rebuild them. Today, I had to make him feel the pain I once felt. He stammered, unable to refute a single word. Nothing to say? I took a deep breath, suppressing the surge of emotions, and regained my composure. Since there's nothing to say, let's talk about the divorce papers. I'll give you 2 options. I held up 2 fingers. 1, a peaceful divorce. You signed this agreement, leave with nothing, and we'll part ways amicably. I'll preserve your last bit of dignity and won't expose these matters. 2, I paused, my gaze sharp as a blade. We'll see each other in court. By then, your marital infidelity, asset transfer, and forged documents and embezzled funds will become the biggest news in the city. What do you think? Where will your parents put their faces? Will your boss, who values reputation above all else, still keep you? Marcus abruptly looked up, his eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Forged documents? Grace, don't you dare slander me. Whether I'm slandering you or not, you know best, I said, looking at him coldly. For that Europe inspection project, did you forge your superior's signature to reimburse those enormous travel expenses? If this matter gets out, it's not just a simple ethical issue. It's embezzlement. Marcus, do you want to go to jail? The 2 words, go to jail, struck Marcus's nerves like a heavy hammer. He completely collapsed onto the sofa, the last trace of color draining from his face. Cold sweat continuously seeped from his temples. He knew I wasn't joking. Forging signatures for reimbursement was the boldest, most covert gamble of his career. He thought he had done it undetected, but he never expected that I would seize such a fatal weakness. After a long silence, he finally looked up, his eyes no longer filled with anger and resentment, but with utter fear and despair. Grace, he began, his voice hoarse. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. He slid off the sofa, almost kneeling before me. Please forgive me this one time, okay? We won't divorce. I'll break up with her. I'll cut all ties with her immediately, completely. He clung to my pants leg, like a dog wagging its tail, begging for scraps. I was infatuated. I was an idiot. I shouldn't have betrayed you, shouldn't have treated you like that. He began to slap himself, again and again, the sound echoing sharply. See, I'm punishing myself. Please don't be angry with me anymore, wife. The term wife, coming from his mouth, sounded incredibly ironic to me. I watched his performance with a cold gaze, my heart completely unmoved. If only you had known this outcome, why did you act that way in the first place? Grace, give me another chance. Seeing my indifference, he cried even more miserably. Think about our past, we've been together for 8 years, we had so many beautiful memories. Beautiful memories? I interrupted him. Were they all eroded by your repeated betrayals with your mistress? His sobbing stopped. I pulled my pants leg from his grasp, stepping back to create distance between us. Marcus, stop with your pathetic act. It's useless. I knew him too well. He wasn't truly repentant, he was just scared. Scared of losing his job, scared of being disgraced, scared of losing everything. His apology was ridiculously cheap. Looking at his tear-streaked face, I suddenly felt very tired. Entangling myself with someone like him would only drag me down to his level. Alright, I suddenly said. Marcus abruptly looked up, a flicker of surprise and wild joy in his eyes. You agreed? You forgave me? I can choose not to divorce, I said, looking at him slowly, but it's not forgiveness. I took another stack of documents from my bag and threw it in front of him. This is a postnuptial fidelity agreement. Sign it. From now on, all assets under your name, including your salary, bonuses, and investment returns, will be managed by me. Every month, I'll give you $5,000 for pocket money. Additionally, you must sever all contact with your mistress and block all her contact information in front of me. If I ever discover you having any inappropriate interactions with any other woman, you will automatically forfeit all assets and leave with nothing. Furthermore, the evidence of the forged signature will immediately appear on your boss's desk. I looked down at him, my voice as cold as iron. If you do all this, we can continue to be husband and wife. Do you dare to sign it? Marcus looked at the agreement, which was practically a humiliating treaty. His expression looked utterly disgusted. Marcus's expression changed again and again. This agreement was tantamount to turning him into a complete dependent spouse, with his financial lifeline firmly in my control. The struggle and humiliation in his eyes were almost overflowing, but he had no choice. Between going to jail and losing his dignity, he decisively chose the latter. I'll sign it. He squeezed out the words through gritted teeth, picked up the pen from the floor, and with a trembling hand, signed his name at the bottom of the agreement. After signing, he looked as if all his strength had been drained, collapsing onto the floor. Now, make the call, I commanded coldly. He looked up, bewildered. To whom? Your mistress. I kicked his phone towards him. In front of me, break up with her, then block all her contact information. Marcus's body stiffened, a flicker of pain and reluctance crossing his face. I scoffed. What? Can't bear to? No. He immediately denied it, frantically picking up his phone. His fingers hovered over the screen for a long time before he finally dialed that familiar number. The call was quickly answered, and the sweet-sounding female voice spoke again. Honey, you finally called back. I've been waiting for so long. Marcus took a deep breath, his voice dry as he spoke. We're breaking up. Silence from the other end of the line. A few seconds later, a shrill female voice erupted. Marcus. What do you mean? Is your wife there? Tell her to give me the phone. It has nothing to do with her. Marcus's voice sounded utterly exhausted. It's over between us. Don't contact me again. Over? Marcus, you bastard. What do you take me for? A plaything to be summoned and dismissed at will? Did you forget you said you'd marry me? Did you forget you said you didn't love your wife at all, and only stayed with her for her family's money? On the other end of the line, the woman cried hysterically, spilling all of Marcus's unsavory sweet nothings. Marcus's face turned white then green. He instinctively glanced at me, his eyes filled with terror. I remained expressionless, merely mouthing continue. He gritted his teeth, hardening his heart. I never said I'd marry you, that was just your wishful thinking. We're done. With that, he hung up the phone. Dir. Eckley, then, in front of me, added the number to his block list. WhatsApp, Discord, all possible contact methods were deleted one by one. Having completed all this, he let out a long breath, as if he had finished a difficult task. He looked up, attempting to find a hint of softening on my face. Grace, I did everything you said. Very good. I nodded, putting away the agreement. Now, it's my turn. I took out my phone and, in front of him, found Alex's WhatsApp. Marcus's breathing hitched instantly, his eyes fixed on my phone screen. Without a moment's hesitation, I directly dialed Alex's voice call. The phone rang twice before it was answered. A cheerful, sunny male voice came through. "Grace, miss me?" Marcus's fists instantly clenched. I glanced at him, then spoke calmly into the phone. "Alex, let's end this. Let what happened before be a dream. Thank you for your companionship during this time. Goodbye." With that, without waiting for a response, I decisively hung up the phone, blocked, and deleted. The entire process was smooth and swift, without any lingering hesitation. Marcus was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to be so resolute. He looked at me, his eyes complex. "You. Now, we're even," I said, tossing my phone onto the sofa and meeting his gaze. "From today on, Marcus, your marriage has entered a probationary period. And I am the sole examiner." The days that followed settled into an eerie calm. Marcus became unprecedentedly well-behaved. He arrived at work and left promptly every day, no longer having any social engagements or overtime. When he came home, he would voluntarily take on all the housework, cooking, mopping, laundry, as diligent as a prospective son-in-law making his first visit. He awkwardly tried to learn how to stew soup for me, though the taste was hard to describe. He remembered to buy flowers on our anniversary, even if the roses were gaudy and expensive. He would even accompany me to watch my favorite boring Roman CE movies, only to fall asleep beside me. He diligently played the role of a good husband. Every month, his salary was deposited in full, without a single cent missing. Once, a college friend of his got married, and he needed to give a generous cash gift, but he had to humbly request it from me. Watching his repressed yet unable to act out demeanor, I felt no pleasure in revenge, only absurdity. We were like two actors wearing masks, performing a farcical play called Back to Normal on the stage named Home. I knew that everything he did was merely a temporary measure to keep his job and assets. He hated me for taking away his dignity and freedom. That hatred was hidden beneath every one of his deferential attempts to please me. And I hadn't truly let go either. I was like a vigilant prison guard, monitoring his every move. I would regularly check his phone call log and expense statements. I would occasionally pass by his company to see if he was genuinely working diligently. This atmosphere of distrust, like an airtight net, firmly trapped both of us. Finally, the calm was broken. That day, I received a call from an unknown number. As soon as I answered, a woman's vicious curses erupted. "Grace, you bitch. Do you think you've won? Do you think that by tying Marcus to your side, he'll love you?" It was the mistress. Her voice was shrill and piercing, filled with resentment and hatred. "I'm telling you, I'm the one he loves. He's just acting with you every day, he's always thinking of me. He says you're like a dead fish, old and boring. He'll come back to me eventually. Just you wait." With that, she hung up the phone. I held my phone, my face grim. That evening, Marcus came home with groceries, as usual. Seeing my expression, he asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" I didn't answer. I just tossed my phone to him. It showed the unknown number. "She called you?" Marcus's face instantly changed. "Yes," I said, looking at him coldly. "She said you're in contact with her every day, that acting with me is exhausting, that I'm like a dead fish." Marcus's body stiffened, and his eyes began to dart away. "No. Grace, don't listen to her nonsense. I broke up with her a long time ago." "Really?" I picked up an envelope from the sofa and threw it in front of him. Inside were photos of him and a woman. Although the woman wore a mask and a hat, I recognized her at a glance. The background of the photos was a coffee shop. The date taken was yesterday afternoon. Marcus looked at the photos, his face ashen. I was just going to break up with her for good. I told her not to bother you anymore," he explained frantically. "Break up?" I laughed. "Does breaking up require talking for over an hour, and you personally handing her tissues to wipe her tears? Marcus, do you really think I'm so easy to fool?" My voice was soft, but it was full of oppressive force. He completely panicked. "Grace, listen to me. Things aren't what you think." "I don't want to hear it," I interrupted him. "The agreement clearly states the consequences if it happens again. You know them better than I do." I stood up, preparing to go to my room, but suddenly rushed over and hugged me tightly from behind. "Grace, no." His voice carried a hint of desperate sobbing. "I can't lose this job. I can't lose everything." He was holding my arm, trembling slightly. I didn't struggle, I just spoke indifferently. "Now you're scared? When you went to see her, why didn't you think about the consequences?" He choked. I was confused for a moment. "I promise, this is the last time. I swear." I remained silent. Just when Marcus thought I was softening, I suddenly smelled a faint woman's perfume on him, one that didn't belong to him. It was the same scent I had caught in the elevator today from Blair, the new head of the legal department at my company. Identical. In that instant, all the blood in my body seemed to freeze. A terrifying GHT wildly grew in my mind. The new head of the legal department at my company, last name Blair, first name Blair. She was a decisive, exceptionally capable career woman, with a sleek short haircut, and always carried a cool, woody-scented perfume. Aunt's mistress, I'd only heard her sweet-sounding voice on the phone and seen her charming, lovely selfies on her social media post. They were two completely different types of people. How could they use the same perfume? A coincidence? I didn't move, letting Marcus hold me, continuing his clumsy performance. Wife, I really know I was wrong, please trust me one more time. I closed my eyes, resorting the tangled clues in my mind. The mistress's hysterical curses on the phone seemed more like a deliberate provocation to infuriate me. Marcus's panicked reaction when I caught him meeting her also seemed a bit over the top. And that perfume on him. A bold guess formed in my heart. Could all of this be a play they orchestrated together? A play designed to make me lower my guard, or rather, to lead me into a trap. I abruptly opened my eyes, my gaze chilling. All right, I said softly. Marcus's sobbing stopped, and he looked up in surprise and wild joy. You agreed? You forgave me? I'll trust you one last time. I turned around and looked directly into his eyes, saying word by word, Marcus, if there's a next time, then we truly will be irrevocably ruined. My tone was more serious and resolute than ever before. Marcus looked at me, stunned for a few seconds, then nodded forcefully. No, there won't. Absolutely never again. A glimmer of relief flashed in his eyes, so fast that it seemed like my imagination. I pretended not to notice, rubbing my temples tiredly. I'm tired. I want to rest. Okay, you go rest, I'll make dinner. He solicitously helped me to the bedroom door. Closing the door, the fatigue on my face instantly vanished, replaced by a cold intensity. I immediately sent a message to my friend at the telecom company. Help me check the call logs and text message exchanges for two numbers, one is Marcus's, the other is Dot. I entered Blair's phone number. I had found this number in the company directory. Then, I opened my laptop and hacked into our community's underground parking garage surveillance system. I set the time to yesterday afternoon, the period when Marcus left the house. Soon, I found his car. He drove away, and half an hour later, the car parked in front of a coffee shop downtown. He got out of the car and went into the coffee shop. 5 minutes later, a woman wearing a mask and a hat appeared. She glanced left and right, then also entered the same coffee shop. Although I couldn't see her face clearly, her figure, her way of walking, it was distinctly the mistress. An hour later, they both walked out, one after the other. Marcus drove away. But the woman walked across the street and got into a white Audi A7. I recognized that car's license plate. It was the car of my company's head of legal department, Blair. Seeing this, the blood in my veins ran cold. My suspicion was confirmed. The so-called mistress and Blair were, in fact, the same person. No, rather, from beginning to end, there was only Blair. That sweet-sounding voice, those charming selfies, were nothing but a fabricated facade. What was her true purpose? Why would a head of legal department go to such lengths to approach Marcus and destroy my marriage? She and I had never met, had no grudge. Unless her target, from the very beginning, wasn't Marcus. It was me. Or rather, my father's company. I felt a chill run down my spine. This web was much larger and more insidious than I had imagined. My friend's phone call came quickly, her voice heavy. Grace, something's happened. Marcus and Blair have exchanged over 100 calls in the last 3 months. And every single one was late at night. What's more, I found that Blair's bank account received a large transfer from overseas 6 months ago. Oh, the sender was Apex. Apex? My pupils constricted sharply. That's my dad's company's biggest competitor. All the clues, at this moment, clicked into place. This wasn't a simple affair, it was a meticulously planned business conspiracy. Blair approached Marcus, stirring trouble between us, solely to steal my dad's company's trade secrets through him. And, this foolish and greedy man, willing to get revenge on me, willing to escape my control, willingly became their pawn. He thought he was teaming up with his lover to deal with me, his wicked wife. But he didn't know he had already stepped into an abyss of no return, possibly even becoming an accomplice to industrial espionage. I was shaking with anger, both at their despicable actions and at Marcus's stupidity. I forced myself to calm down. This wasn't the time for rage. They thought I was in the dark, and that was precisely my best chance to strike back. I would make them pay the most painful price for their actions. The next day, I went to work as usual. In the elevator, I coincidentally ran into Blair. "Good morning, Director," I said, smiling at her. "Good morning, Director," she replied with a professional smile, her eyes calm and unperturbed. If I hadn't gathered the evidence, I would truly struggle to connect the poised, efficient woman before me with the overly sweet mistress on the phone. Her facade was flawless. "Director, that's a lovely perfume you're wearing. Woodsy, isn't it?" "Very unique," I remarked, feigning casualness. Her eyes flickered for a second, then she smiled. "You have excellent taste, Director. It's a niche perfume called Lies." Lies? How fitting. I just smiled and said nothing more. Over the next few days, I deliberately acted stressed about company matters in front of Marcus. "Ugh, the company is bidding on a major project in the south of the city soon, and the pressure is immense. I hear Apex is also vying for it, so the competition will likely be fierce this time." I accident. Tally dropped hints about the project, while observing Marcus's reaction from the corner of my eye. He pretended to watch TV, but his perked up ears and subtly twitching eye betrayed his inner tension. That evening, I deliberately left a project proposal on the study table, then feigned illness and went to bed early. The proposal, of course, was fake. All the data and plans within it were meticulously crafted traps. I had installed a miniature tracker and bug inside the cover of the proposal. That night, I was awakened by the vibration of my phone. It was movement picked up by the bug. I put on my headphones, and Marcus's hushed phone conversation came through. "Yes, I got it. It matches the information we received earlier. She doesn't seem to suspect me at all. Don't worry, Blair, once this is done, what you promised me." The rest of the conversation faded, inaudible. I felt my heart being tightly gripped by an invisible hand, cold and aching. Even though I had expected it, hearing his betrayal firsthand still sent a chilling cold through me. This man, we've been together for 8 years, was truly willing to sell out everything for money and his so-called freedom, including me, and himself. I ended the wiretap and saved the recording. Marcus, Blair, Apex. This game had to end. And I would make sure every participant lost everything. 10 on the day of the bidding meeting, I walked into the venue dressed in a sharp black suit. Marcus, as one of my company's representatives, followed behind me, a hint of poorly concealed nervousness and triumph on his face. Blair, representing Apex, sat across from us. She saw me and offered a meaningful smile. That smile was filled with the arrogance of a victor. The bidding began. Apex's representative, Blair, walked confidently onto the stage. The plan she presented was almost identical to the content leaked in my fake proposal. In fact, to show their sincerity, the price they quoted was a full 5% lower than the bottom price in our proposal. It was a price that would entice any client. I saw the faces of several unsuspecting executives in our camp change. Marcus was practically trembling with excitement, his gaze toward Blair filled with adoration and worship. Before our representative took the stage, I requested permission from the host to play some supplementary materials. Under the bewildered stares of the crowd, the large screen lit up. First to appear were photos of Marcus and Blair meeting at a cafe. Next, a call log of their late-night conversations. Then, screenshots of Blair's bank account showing large transfers from Apex. Finally, a recording began to play on the screen. It was the content of Marcus's conversation with Blair in the study that night. "Yes, I got it. It matches the information we received earlier. She doesn't seem to suspect me at all. Don't worry, Blair, once this is done, what you promised me, 10 million, and the position of vice at Apex, not one thing can be missing." The recording echoed clearly throughout the entire venue. The whole room fell silent. All eyes fixated on Marcus and Blair, who were deathly pale. The confidence and arrogance on Blair's face crumbled instantly, replaced by endless terror and disbelief. As for Marcus, his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor. This isn't real. It's forged." Blair shrieked hysterically. "Forged?" I picked up the microphone, my voice coldly resonating through the hall. "Ms. Blair, I've already submitted this evidence concurrently to the police and the Commercial Crime Investigation Department. I trust they will provide a fair judgment. As for Apex, for using illicit means to steal trade secrets and engage in malicious bidding, I believe you will not only lose your qualification for this bidding meeting but also face massive fines and legal sanctions." My words were like heavy hammer blows, completely shattering Blair's last psychological defense. And he looked up, desp. Air in his eyes, his lips trembling, yet unable to utter a single word. In his eyes, I was probably more terrifying than a devil. The outcome of the bidding meeting was without suspense. Apex was placed under investigation for industrial espionage, and Blair and Marcus, as the principal offenders, were immediately taken away by the police. I heard that due to the massive amount involved, they could face over 10 years in prison. After the dust settled, I returned alone to the empty house. I looked at the entryway, as if I could still see Marcus and me standing opposite each other that night. Everything felt like an absurd farce. On the table were the divorce papers I had drafted long ago, and a solitary ring. I picked up the pen and signed my name on the agreement. In that moment, I felt no thrill of revenge, no ease of relief, only a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. I had once believed that both of us cheating was a tit-for-tat game of revenge. Only in the end did I realize that in this already decayed relationship, there was never a winner. We both lost, losing everything. I pulled my suitcase, took one last look at the house that held 8 years of my youth, love, and hate, then turned and left without looking back. Outside the door, the sun was shining brightly. I sent a message to my younger boyfriend, no, my ex-boyfriend Alex. Got time? Let's grab a drink. A few seconds later, he replied. Always free. I smiled. Perhaps ending a wrong relationship was for a better beginning. I didn't know what the future held, but this time I wanted to live for myself. Marcus and I ultimately did not reconcile. Because some betrayals, once they happen, can never be undone. We both paid the price for our choices. And I could finally let go of the past and walk towards my true new beginning. Thank you for watching today's story. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.